Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Peace be unto you, the peace of God that surpasses all understandings. I say unto you, Assalamu alaikum. To the beneficent, the merciful, master of the dear requital, the all-present knowing God, the all-powerful God. To the beneficent, the merciful God who controls our breathing, who controls our life, who give us the ability and use of our limbs. We're thankful, so very thankful to be a part of this amazing chapter of our life called today, the present. And it is indeed a gift, brothers and sisters, so it's the present. We ask our amazing, all-knowing, omnipotent, omnipresent God to guide us on the right path, not as the paths of the hypocrites, but the path of righteousness, that our action will be pleasing in your sight. Brothers and sisters, we're happy to be here. Happy to be here with a very hot topic. We've got some certainly intelligent answers to give today as it relates to us as a people and how we have to be and what we must become to come out of bondage. We've got to come out of bondage, brothers and sisters. We've got to come out of bondage. God is calling and causing you and I to come out of bondage. He's calling us with his voice. He's calling us with the eternal voice of freedom, the liberation and the liberation spirit, the liberated mind. He's calling you and I to come out of bondage. We've got to come out of bondage. First, before we can become liberated, before we can come out of bondage, physically, we've got to come out spiritually. We've got to come out mentally. We've got to come out emotionally. This is the thing. This is the thing that God requires of us, that we will make a conscious decision to do for self. Conscious decision to do for self. And we got to do that, brothers and sisters, because the hour that we're in today, excuse me, brothers and sisters, I know you understand. The hours that we're in today, and there's so much happening in this hour that we have to make our call and election sure, and we have to be determined, must be determined, to follow God and not turn back. Is it right or wrong? So my desire, my prayer for you is that you will find this strength to exercise this gift. That's my desire and my strength for you. My desire and my prayer for you is that you will find the strength, that you yourself will find the strength to do for self. To do for self. So brothers and sisters, please, sir and ma'am, find the strength. Find the strength to do for self. We are very thankful today. Very, very thankful. Very, very thankful to be able to do the will of God. And that means to constantly remind our brothers and sisters that our life, our health, our strength depends on God. It's God who blesses us to rise up and lay down, not the white man. Man is not God, right? Man is born of a woman and here for a few days. But to God, there is no end. To God, brothers and sisters, there's no end. So our desire and our prayer is that you would take his yoke upon you and learn of him, because his yoke is easy. And my God, his burdens are light. I'm just so happy to be in the land of the living. The land of the living. Though we walk around as if we're in graveyards, right? Still have an expectation from that taskmaster, not understanding that the taskmaster can't do anything that God don't allow him, and that like God raised up Pharaoh, like he raised up the plantation owners of the days when we were in physical bondage and physical chains, That same God that slew Pharaoh, that slew the slave owners of our parents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents, slew the slave owners of the colonial system, how he raised up apartheid and liberation. God is raising you up today. He's shaking off the shackles of bondage to give you freedom. You just don't know it. You just don't know it. And so my desire is that you will learn. I'm here to teach you, brothers and sisters. I'm on a mission, and I've been sent by God to teach you. Sent by God to teach you to hold on. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. To hold on, because help is on the way. Help is on the way. That help is coming from the mighty God, the Prince of Peace. That help is coming from him, for he's the only one that can give it. A peace that passes all understanding, that surpasses all understanding. Not the peace that the enemy gives. He can't give you peace. Why, brothers and sisters, it's the enemy that's got you around here in trouble. It's the enemy that's got your head in your hand. The enemy's got you worried, brothers and sisters. But God say, take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And brothers and sisters, I'm a living witness. I'm a living witness. When you realize that he got all things in his hand, his yoke is truly easy. His yoke is truly easy, and his burden is indeed, my God, his burden is indeed light. So I'm so thankful and so happy to be on God's side. To be on God's side. Because I know if you get on God's side, God will get on your side. So join us tonight at it's half past the hour. It is 8:37 now. It's 8:37. Join us, brothers and sisters, so that you will be able to get some of this good teaching that was taught to us while our eyes were closed, while we were groping in darkness during the day hour. This great teaching came to us from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and other leaders, holy leaders, apostolic leaders that have come before us, showing us the light of salvation, the light of liberation, the light of equality, and the light of true freedom, that we might ask the question, what must I do to be saved? And brothers and sisters, I'm a living witness. I am a living witness that if you get on God's side, God will get on your side, and your burdens will be easy. Your yoke will be light, or rather your yoke will be easy, and your burden will be light. And even your yoke will be light and your burden's easy, however you want to put it. Because he's guiding all. He's in control of all. I'm so thankful. I'm so glad today that you and I can deal and talk with a God that will not let us down, a God that answers every request, dry every eyes, a God that cleans every ear, a God that washes every mind and baptizes everybody to raise us from the old man and woman to the new man. To the new man, for we ourselves had no knowledge of how to do it for ourselves, so he sent us an example. He sent us an example, and in that example, he clothed himself in flesh and called it Yeshua, Aliyah Asa, who is known as Jesus. Is that right or wrong? So we have an example and ensample if we want it. We have an example and an ensample if we want it. And the way have been made plain, and the crooked has been made straight, and the glory of God has been revealed, brothers and sisters. And all you have to do is open your eyes and see it together. It's that God that has delivered us. He's the one that I want to tell you about today. That God, a living God. He's not an idle God, but he's a living God. And brothers and sisters, we must follow, because we have to become a part of him. Is that right or wrong? So I'm thankful today, elated that we have a place to turn. There are brothers and sisters getting angry right now. They're worried. They're worried and they're angered, afraid and scared, worried about what Trump is going to do. Don't you know Trump has no power? Trump doesn't have any power over you, brothers and sisters. You've never had freedom. You believe you have freedom? You've never had freedom. And that's the reason I picked the topic today. I picked this topic today because I know that you've never had freedom. A declaration can't give you freedom. You've never had it. A declaration can give you an amendment to vote. You never had it. A man can give you equality, and a law can make a man love you. A law can make a man love you. Now, it can stop him from lynching you, right? It may not stop him from killing you, right? But you certainly can't make a man love you with laws. You're in America. You have to understand what America is, how it got here. You got to understand that. What are you dealing with when you talk about a corporation called America? What are you dealing with? You got to question. You have to. You got to question where you are, who you are in the place that you're in, how you got here, how long you've been in bondage, what are you going to do when you get out of bondage, and how will you get back to your system and cultural roots? That's the great challenge. You have to ask yourself that. We have to know. We have to know. And this is not something that we can run from. We've got to be intelligent. We've got to be importunate. That means to keep on keeping on. Stay with it. Keep fighting. We've got to be steadfast, unmovable, and always abounding in the work of God, brothers and sisters. And if we live a righteous life, so many things will be revealed to the mind. Is that right or wrong? If we are righteous, if we desire to be righteous, and if we are righteous. Brothers and sisters, today, I want to continue to read for us world history. This is the man. This is his doings. And he believed that he has an excuse. He believes that he has an excuse for doing the atrocities that he's done against the black man. We have to understand, first of all, is this, that equality is not yours. You're still in bondage. Still in bondage. So equality is not yours. You have to also understand that America will never give the black man freedom, because if they give the black man freedom, it'll destroy their entire system. They'll never do it. You've got people willing to sell out right now for virtual freedom. Yeah. But literal freedom, you'll never get it. You'll never get it. Even the freedom you think others have, black politicians, black lawyers, black mayors, black councilmen, black legislators, black senators, black presidents, they don't have power. They don't have power. No, they're put in place as puppet leaders to fool the masses into thinking that something took place that didn't take place. See, 1964 is no different than 2024. 1965 is no different than 2025. You're still fighting the same beast you're still fighting the same power. You're still fighting the same enemy that has had you suppressed ever since he invaded Africa. That's a fact. That's a fact. So it behooves you. It behooves you to re-examine, to look within, and find the strength to organize, because you should be organizing. This would be the roughest and the most rewarding 3 years of your life. I say that because the other part of it is going to be given to a campaign to hand it back over to a Democrat devil. See, because they're both devils, Democrat devil and the Republican devil. They're both devil with black demons. Yeah, the black folks that in politics is on their side. I hate to say it. Oh, I voted for Obama too, but I was not duped. I was not duped. Of course, he was fitting for the office, so I voted, but I didn't think that he could turn anything around. And besides, he's president of the same organization that kept us down. He could have used executive order to give us reparations. He never did. I love Obama. I love Obama. He allowed them to use him again. Is that right or wrong? When they made same-sex marriage. Huh? And he ratified it and approved it. The only president that did. Only president that did. The only one that did. Now, in saying that, Trump makes a mockery out of the oath of office. He doesn't even swear in on the Bible. He doesn't swear in. He did not place his hand on the Bible. Also, he is now talking about giving reparations to white. And I say he's doing his job. He's doing his job. He's taking care of his people. That's the thing that we got to learn. He's doing the thing that we got to learn. And you see already that white people are on board. I don't care if they're from the lowest, raggliest, homeless, pissy-smelling white beatnik to the highest, most wealthy, quote-unquote, respectful white, or to the mid-grain moderate. All of them, irregardless of how they portray themselves, all of them is for Trump. Because white people, when they move, they may not agree. As a matter of fact, they should give you and I credit for bringing them together. Black people are the only people that can bring them together. The only people that can bring them together. And hopefully they'll give us the credit for it. But with that being said, when the decision is finally made against you and I, the white man is together. So they got Trump in office. They got him in office. You didn't get him in office. They got him in office. They got him in office. They use you to do it. You don't have enough sense to understand it. My heart goes out to you, black brothers and sisters. My heart goes out because I already know you'll put 1 million likes on the body of your sister exploiting herself. And you won't gather in one place to hear something that will help you. And it's sad. My heart goes out to you. It really does. It really does. My heart goes out to you. Nonetheless, we don't put the information out on the web to get any likes. We do it because it's righteous. And brothers and sisters, we're going to talk about nationalism and unification in Europe. So this is very important because once we do that, then you understand how and why we must put out the truth about the devil that's running things here, because the same devil here is the same devil in Europe and the same devil all over the globe. Same devil. Same devil. And his coons, which the children he produced through his mammy, the house slave, and their connection, some of them are passing for white, are the same ones that are keeping his house in order. J. Edgar Hoover was one of them. There were many others. There were many, many others, right? They have to make sure that everything is kept in house. Nationalism and unification in Europe. As nationalism spread beyond Europe, people often created an identity under one government where none had existed before. Nationalism increased in France and other areas of Europe and the Americas. More than in the past, people felt a common bond with others who spoke their language, shared their history, followed their custom. Nationalism thrived in France and beyond its borders, in areas conquered by Napoleon, particularly those in the Germanic areas of the declining Holy Roman Empire. Nationalism was a unifying force that not only threatened large empires, but it also drove the efforts to unite people who shared a culture into one political state. Italian unification. Count de Cavour, the prime minister of Piedmont, Sardinia, led the drive to unite the entire Italian peninsula under the only native dynasty, the House of Savoy. At the time, the region was divided among a patchwork of kingdoms and city and states. Most people spoke regional languages rather than Italian. Cavour himself spoke French better than he spoke Italian. Like other classical liberals, he believed in natural rights, progress, and constitutional monarchy. But he also believed in the practical politics of reality. Constitutional monarchy, right? Constitutional monarchy, which we're going to talk about that because America exercises constitutional monarchy. But he also believed in the practical politics of reality, which came to be called realpolitik. Realpolitik, that's REALPOLITIK. Thus, they should say politricks. POLIRTITRICK, politricks. Thus, he did not hesitate to advance the cause of Italian unity through manipulation. In 1858, he maneuvered Napoleon III of France into war with Austria, hoping to weaken Austrian influence on the Italian peninsula. Napoleon III backed out of the war after winning two important battles, probably because he feared the wrath of the Pope, who did not, and I repeat, did not want his papal states to be controlled by a central Italian government. Now you look at this, all of this is for power. All of this is for power. Nevertheless, it was too late to stop the revolutionary fervor, and soon several areas voted by plebiscites or popular referendum to join Piedmont, the Kingdom of Sardinia. To aid the unification efforts, Cavour adopted the radical, romantic, revolutionary philosophy of Giuseppe Mazzini, who had been agitating for Italian resurgence, risorgimento, since early in the 19th century. Cavour also allied with the Red Shirt military force led by Giuseppe Garibaldi, which was fighting farther south in the Kingdom of Naples. German unification. In Germany, national movements had already strengthened as a result of opposition to French occupation of German states. I'm going to read this. Be patient with me, brothers and sisters, because there's a big lesson to come out of it. Under Napoleon Bonaparte, following the Congress of Vienna, which settled the Napoleonic Wars of 1815, revolution occurred in a number of European states, including Prussia and Austria. The revolution of 1848 was the result of both nationalism, especially a desire for independence, and liberalism, a desire for representation under the Constitution that recognized civil liberties. Prussia's leader, Otto von Bismarck, who, like Cavour, favored realpolitik, used nationalist feelings to engineer 3 wars to bring about German unification. Bismarck manipulated Austria and participated in 2 wars. The first was Prussia against Denmark, 1864. The second was Prussia against Austria, 7 Weeks' War of 1866. After winning both wars, Bismarck manipulated France into declaring war against Prussia. His armies beat the French soundly in the Franco-Prussian War in 1870. In each of these wars, Prussia gained territory. In 1871, Bismarck founded the new German Empire, made up of many territories gained from war, including Alsace-Lorraine, an area long part of France on the border between France and New Germany. Now, let's talk about the global consequences of these wars. The global consequence: by 1871, 2 new powers, Italy and Germany, were on the international stage in an environment of competing alliances. Balance of power would be achieved briefly through these alliances, but extreme nationalism would lead to World War I. So you're learning what happened to bring these nations to wars and why they refuse to war against one another, right, anymore. They will finance war. They will instigate war between others, but they'll never fight wars themselves. Let's keep reading. Global consequences of 1871. 2 new powers, Italy and Germany, were on the international stage in an environment of competing alliances. Balance of power would be achieved briefly through these alliances, but extreme nationalism will lead to World War I. What happened in World War I? It was against Japan, right? World War I was against Japan. Is that right? All right. Keep in mind that we're talking about the powers, Italy and Germany, right, on the international stage. Now, unification did not solve all Italians' problems. Poverty in Italy, more in the south than in the north, led to considerable immigration in the late 19th century, particularly to the United States and Argentina, where the Constitution of 1853 specifically encouraged immigration, the movement of people into the country from other countries. Now, Balkan nationalism. We're talking about the Ottoman Empire. Just bear with me. Balkan nationalism. The Ottoman Empire had been the dominant force in the southern Europe for centuries, but for many reasons, the 17th century saw the beginning of its long, slow decline. A failed attempt to conquer Vienna in 1683 signaled the beginning of the successor effort by Austria and Russia to roll back Ottoman dominance in the Balkans. It was largely due to the increasing involvement and contact with Western Europe ideas and power that Balkan nationalism developed. In Greece, which by the 1800s had offered under Ottoman control for more than 350 years, increased contact with Western ideas meant exposure to Enlightenment principles. It also meant exposure to the reverence with which Greece and its ancient culture were viewed across Europe. Together, these developments helped reawaken Greek culture, pride, and stoke the fires of Greek nationalism. A protracted civil war against Ottoman forces brought back some success. However, it took the intervention of British, French, and Russian fleet, which destroyed the Ottoman fleet in 1827 and helped assure Greek independence. Now listen, events in other Balkan regions such as Serbia, Bulgaria, and Romania followed a similar but by no means identical course. The waning of the Ottoman control led to a greater freedom and influx of new ideas, including nationalism. People began to rally around important cultural markers such as language, folk tradition, shared history, and religion. Later, outside the powers such as Russia and Austria aided in achieving the independence. Now, understand with the Ottoman, this is Africa. They're connected to Africa. The Ottoman Empire is connected to Africa. Remember that. This is very, very important. Very important. If they can move them out, right? Because Europe, when you talk about the Dark Ages that Europe is talking about is when dark people ruled the world. The ages was dark because there was no white people in dominance. The term dark is used as a racist term. It's eugenic. It's eugenic to explain the presence of black rulers in Europe, Spain, Africa, all over. So they call it the Dark Ages. And when they say dark, this is a eugenic term, the term of racism. All right, so the Ottoman nationalism. The 1870s and 1880s saw the development of the Ottoman state of Ottomanism, a movement that aimed to create a more modern, unified state. Officials sought to do this by minimizing the ethnic, linguistic, and religious differences across the empire, taking control of local schools, mandating a standard curriculum was a major part of this drive. But the effects of nationalism were not limited to Balkan territories and Ottoman officials. Ethnic and religious groups, here's the term, hence the term ethnic and religious groups within the Ottoman Empire had nationalist urges of their own. They viewed Ottomanism with suspicion. Ironically, this attempt to create a more unified state actually served to highlight and intensify subject people's feelings of difference and promote their desire for independence. All right? So now, because we're talking about nationalism, you have to understand what Donald Trump is. This is white nationalism. To be under American bondage, we're under the bondage of white nationalists. And their nationalism involves racism. You got to understand that. You have to understand it. You have to understand it. America is racist. America is racist. That's what you produce. That's what you've been producing when you fall subject to the American way of life, the American Constitution. All of these is to encourage white nationalism, white power. It doesn't do anything for black people. That's why I'm telling you, you look foolish getting angry that Trump, through an executive order, rescinded the bill, the 1965 Working Bill and Freedom Act and the 1964 Civil Rights Act while you're out of your mind. But I'm reading this so you can know exactly what's going on, so you'll know what's happening. So we're going to talk about these things. And so you will know what a real revolution is. And you being forced into one, you don't know it. The white man, if he could really figure out that he's making the biggest mistake of his life going in that direction, they wouldn't do it. They'll do whatever it takes to keep you in bondage. But nothing can keep you away from nationalism. Nothing can keep you away from revolt. Nothing will ever keep you away from revolution. Nothing, you can't do it. When the history books are rewritten, you'll find out that the internet and all of these camera surveillance and all of the technology is what brought revolution to America, the kind of revolution they couldn't stop. That it would be a physical revolution, a technological revolution, an industrial revolution, and a racial revolution, an ethnic revolution. The future of nationalism. While nationalism continues to shape how people view themselves and their political alliances, some signs suggest that nationalism Some signs suggest that nationalism might be starting to decline. In Europe, many countries have agreed to use the same currency to allow people to travel freely across borders to coordinate public policies. These changes might reflect a shift away from nationalism and toward a larger political grouping like city-states and empires. Nations might someday give way to other forms of political organization. They're talking about the failure of nationalism. This is the failure, right? So the problem with power, excuse me, brothers and sisters, the problem with power is that when too many people get it, it becomes less attractive. And you can't keep having all these wars, right? But they're going to continue to happen until the power is eventually overturned, right? And it's never the oppressed. It's crazy. It's wild. It's never the oppressed that destroy kingdoms. That's not where it began. It began with those in power who are fighting to become more powerful than the other organization that they're conferring with. Those that want to control power are the ones that destroy kingdom. That's why they say absolute power, right, corrupts absolutely, right? So the key terms to think about today in these future failing nationalisms, right, that have no choice, America has no choice but to fail, is losing power. It's losing power. The power, America has literally lost power to manipulate and control other countries. The power is gone. The power is gone. And proof of which, if you watch Russia and watch everything that's happening in Russia and how little they can control Russia, even through the Geneva Convention and the UK, and NATO, the North Atlantic Slave Organization, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, North Transatlantic Organization, right? It still has its job to keep you in your place, to keep other countries in their place. But all that's failing now. Did we just read The Future of Nationalism? From this is the modern, right? This is from the modern book. This is not from the old book. What does that say? World history. Modern, from 1200 to present. It tells you this is outlining the failure. The researcher here is outlining the failure. And if you want to get this book, you get this book. It's the Advanced Placement Edition, right? The Advanced Placement Edition. If you want to get this book by world history, right? Modern 1200 to present. Any system that's put in place is doomed to be reorganized. Because as time change, people change. What worked yesterday won't work for us today. The civil rights of the 1960s won't work today. Different mindset. And when systems begin to abuse its people, then the people have nothing to lose. And it's when they get there that you're in trouble. When the people get to the place when they feel like they have nothing to lose, that's when you're in trouble. Before they get there, it's all right. But when they get to the place where they feel like they have nothing to lose, that's when you're in trouble. That nation is in trouble. Because revolution, physical revolution, is on the horizon. Before that, you see little scrimmages here and there. When you watch African Defense League, you watch Black Power rising up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 20s, 30s. You watch slave revolts, slavery. So all of these are little speckles of not reactions, speckles of action, not reaction, speckles of action. When you saw the Black Power organizations, when you saw the Black Panthers, when you saw new black militia, you saw African American Defense League, all of these coming up. You couldn't have stopped it. There's no way. America couldn't have stopped it. It couldn't have done it because people were evolving here because you're getting killed, you're getting beat, you're using the system. The system isn't working for you, and you're continuing to do the same thing, right? The same thing is happening over and over. You're using the system isn't there for you. You'll begin to question the system. And today, the white American, just like the black man, I can't call him a black American. I can't even call him African American. I can call him the American African. You begin to question the system. Today, you see, with Trump in office, there's no way that you can't see that the system does not work for you. These devils and racism have put Trump in office. There's no way in this world for you to be deceived or duped to think that it's working for you. Not even the coons and sellouts can be blinded that this system doesn't work for them. And that means Democrats and Republicans. Anywhere you got black folks is holding up the system. Why you sound crazy calling yourself a Democrat or a Republican. It's just completely out of your mind. It's insane. Besides, you can't be in bondage and then also running the office of freedom. You can't do it unless it's a very plastic form or shallow form of freedom. And anything you can ball up is not worth protecting you. So the future of nationalism, while nationalism continues to shape how people view themselves, their political allegiance, some signs suggest that nationalism might be starting to decline. In Europe, many countries have agreed to use the same currency to allow people to travel freely across its borders to coordinate public policies. In other words, the racist regulations are not working anymore. The Constitution is not working anymore. The Declaration of Independence can only prove to keep you in bondage. It's not working anymore, right? These changes might reflect a shift away from nationalism, white nationalism, because that's what you got here in America, white nationalism. It'd be a shift away from white nationalism toward a larger political grouping. Like city-states and empires, nations might someday give way to other forms of political organization. Now, who would be a part of that? What countries are failing? I'll tell you. The American government is failing. The Declaration of Independence is failing. The French government is failing. It's poor, losing money. Their Declaration of Rights of Man is failing. The Reign of Terror, right, happened there. France is failing. The Haitian Revolution, right? Haiti with Toussaint-Louverture. Now, Toussaint was a sellout. The only real revolutionary, according to Haiti, is Dessalines. Dessalines is the only revolutionary. Toussaint-Louverture, it was a sellout. Jean-Baptiste, who orchestrated Chicago, he started Chicago. He was a sellout. Toussaint was supposed to reorganize the new Haiti. Both were sellouts. They were fighting on the white side. You can't fight on the side of the white man, fighting for the French, fighting for the English, and call yourself a revolutionary. Why you can't do it? Revolutionaries turn over powers. Revolution turn over powers. So anybody that the white man recognized, you got to keep this mindset. Anybody that the white man recognized, because he's the one that keeps us in bondage. If he recognized them, we have to be suspicious. If he recognized them and he praised them, then they are suspect because our enemies have recognized them. And friends of our enemies, right, have become enemies of our friends. Is that right or wrong? So we have to keep that in mind. Bolivar Revolution, right, was given to Simon Bolivar. They're failing. Puerto Rico, right? Lourdes Rodriguez, Teo, Puerto Ricans fought for their independence, right? Puerto Rico fought for their independence. But the system that they had over Puerto Rico, which America is governing now, is failing. The Philippines propaganda movement, right, that's run by the UK is failing. The Italian unification, real politics, Giuseppe Mazzini, Risorgimento, and Giuseppe Garibaldi, all of this is failing. These nationalistic groups are failing. Italy, the immigration is failing. German unification, the Otto von Bismarck is failing. The government Balkan automism is failing, right? These are the blacks. These are the blacks that are working with whites in this nationalism. Every last one of these nationalism got coons and sellouts that work with them. All of them are going to perish in the fires of declining nationalism. The Balkan automism is failing. The society classes, the Maroons, the Mestizos, the Peninsulares, the Mulattoes, these are the children of the leaders, children of the governing powers that oppress you. In other words, when we say mulatto, we know that the master got busy with the house slave, right? That's here in America, in the Americas. When we say the Peninsulares, we know that the ones that were over the peninsulas and the islands, right? The house slave got busy with the master and produced them. The mestizos, we know that the black Mexicans, the African mestizos, or rather the African Mexicans, had bedded and were bedded by the Spaniards to create them. The Maroons, these are mixed, right? Global mixture of people. These societies where they put black people in charge when the systems were declining, right? To help them exercise power over you and I. All that's going away. So the coons, sellouts, they all going to perish with their parents. Now, Europe, the Bastille and the Italian Peninsula, that's failing too. Greece, you notice they didn't say Greece. Greece is out of money. Greece is out of money. It's already failed. The Greek Empire now is using a universal coin recognized by the UK and that of the Geneva Convention. So Greece is on loan right now. It pretty soon is going to be wiped out. Pretty soon, you don't hear about it now, but pretty soon Greece will be non-existent as a country. It would be a cardboard country. It won't be anything that you can really get from it or build anything on, right? Because there'd be no Greece. The slavery in Greece has failed. The slavery in Greece has failed. They've had too many riots, too many revolutions, and they just can't handle it. They began to fight amongst one another. Same thing that caused Rome to rise. Greece has been fighting for years against one another, right? And so this caused the decline of Greece, the decline of Greek nationalism. We read about it in history. We read about it in the eloquent Shakespearean writing of the Bible. William Tinsdale, Shakespeare, who had a slave to help him write that, which he never gave a credit for, black female slave. But that's a whole nother conversation. Now, the American Revolution, what is it about? Opposition to taxation without representation. Established independence, created a written constitution. The French Revolution, what was it about? Opposition to growing concentration of wealth. The landless against the landlord. What did it create? It overthrew monarchy and ended feudalism and serfism. In other words, it ended the debt. Those that said they owned debt in France, they wouldn't work anymore. They had to come together because they had too many rising up for power. So it ended feudalism, ended serfdom, overthrew the monarch. So the French monarch didn't have the power that they had. They had to do it through constitution. Now, with the exception of the Prince of Monaco, but that's again another exception, another story. The Haitian Revolution, what was it about? Opposition to slavery. That's what the Haitian Revolution was about. The opposition to slavery. Now, what happened in Haiti? The revolution led to an end of slavery. And I say this loud because that's the same thing that's going to happen here in America. It led to the end of slavery, redistribution of land to free blacks and free men and women. So they had to, once they freed them, they had to give them land. Now, the emancipation of 1862 never freed you as black people. You have to understand that. It wasn't worth the paper it was written on. It wasn't worth the paper it was written on. You can't be emancipated toward freedom. You have to have a revolution to change that. You can't be emancipated toward it. And you've had all the advances, political advances, but you haven't had a real advance where you're willing to die. But that's coming. And we'll see it in our lifetime. And a lot of white people know it's coming too. They don't want that. They don't want that. But there are generations that are coming up today that just don't care about anything instructional, industrial, constitutional, political, religious, social, philosophical, right? They don't care about that. Psychological, they don't care. They don't care about that. And they're rising up every day and they're challenging the power. They're challenging the power. Generations that are coming up that are doing things you and I would never believe, and they are quote unquote woke. Not only that, but for some reason, this ideology appealed to the white children, and they're helping black kids challenge the authority. Same thing happened in Haiti. The very same thing happened in Haiti. And the mixed children, the white children, and the black children were all challenging the authority. They were all challenging the power. But what happened as a result in Haiti? Opposition to slavery, revolution, right? Any opposition you have to slavery, because slavery was the law. Slavery is the law in America. They just don't call it that. No other place have you been a second-class citizen. No other place have you been a free citizen that don't have the rights of others. No other place where black people have been kept down, except here in America, with police killing you and killing kids and babies and running up in the house, shooting you up, shooting innocent women, right? Police targeting black people, lying on them and doing all sorts of evil, yet they say you're free. Same thing was happening in Haiti. Very same thing was happening. But the opposition to slavery, what did it produce? So you have to ask yourself that. And America is moving toward it. They can't control it. God helped them the day that it happened. God helped them the day that it happened because they can't control it. You see little action, scrimmages, rising here, rising there. Nat Turner was a scrimmage. Sojourner Truth was a scrimmage. Harriet Tubman was a scrimmage. Right? Right? The African Defense League was a scrimmage. All these things are happening. Black Power movement, a scrimmage. Civil rights, a scrimmage. All of these are actions. Revolutionary groups of the 1960s. Black Panther Party. The Liberation Movement. The Black Agenda. Black Cross. All of these organizations. Right? Organized. Why? Because they had nothing to lose. And they were getting killed anyway. Black people in the community were getting killed, constantly getting killed. And you talking to America, you're asking them, and they march with you, and you find out that these white people marching with you is more damaging to you. So you start kicking them out of the march. You start talking about black nationalism, right? Start talking about black nationalism. That's why Khalid Muhammad was killed. He had a mind of black nationalism. You have some people that say it, but they'll never do it. All the true nationalists were killed. Malcolm X was killed. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was killed. All the true nationalists. John F. Kennedy, they killed him, American president, in broad daylight, in front of the American people. Shot him right beside his wife and shot his entourage, who was Governor Connolly, without even touching the women. And President Kennedy didn't have the participation of the Secret Service, except saving one man and the brother that was driving, the serviceman that was driving. Other than that, the rest of them pulled back from it. See? All true nationalists are killed. Nationalists see something wrong with the government and they change it. When they see something wrong, they can't keep quiet about it. Robert Kennedy was killed. Malcolm X was killed. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. President John F. Kennedy was killed. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was killed. And there were agents, provocateurs within the organization. They saw to it happening. White, black, and whatever. Huey Newton was killed. Albert Cleage, Jerry Mungy was killed. Khalid Muhammad was killed. All true nationalists with the aggressive philosophy of nationalism are normally killed. Dr. Ava Muhammad, she was killed. So opposition to slavery, opposition to oppression, what are the results? It led to the end of slavery and oppression, redistribution of land to free blacks now. They had made themselves free by the blood of the Lamb. And redistribution of land to free blacks. Now, the Creole Revolution, opposition to European control, which involves America too. That's America too. Opposition to European control, what did it establish? Established several independent countries, led to social conflicts. So revolution bred revolution. Now, when Nat Turner was fighting on these plantations, organizing fights, and John Brown, the only white man in history, besides John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln, who were also killed, were real revolution. I left out Abraham Lincoln. He was a true nationalist. He was willing to do whatever to save the government, but that form of government wouldn't work. So you had the death toll is risen. John Brown, Abraham Lincoln in that order. John Brown, Nat Turner. And there were many others that had died, many others that escaped and left other countries. Then we get down to other nationalists. Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, E.C. Morris of the National Baptist Convention, Charles Mason, right? Then the death of John F. Kennedy, Coolidge, Taft, the death of John F. Kennedy, the death of Minister Malcolm X, the death of Martin Luther King, the death of Robert Kennedy, death of Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the death of what is the gentleman's name that was over the NAACP? Medgar Evers. The death of the veteran, who was also humanist and civil rights leader. The death of Martin Luther King's brother. The death of Huey Newton. Then you had the death of Albert Cleage. The death of Khalid Muhammad. And I want you to understand something too. There's a rhythm to this. One of the rhythms to point the fingerprint of the governing regime or those in power shows you this. Minister Malcolm, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and Albert Cleage. All of them were killed in February. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad died, or rather, Minister Malcolm died February the 21st, 1965. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad died February the 23rd, 1975. Albert Cleage died February 20th, 2000, and Dr. Khalid Muhammad died February the 18th, officially, 2001. So that's to let you know that everyone that is in the position to oppose the powers in America, they're killed. Even presidents. Even presidents. Now, let's say very quickly to jump over to the Industrial Revolution, because we've almost reached our time, give or take a few minutes. The Industrial Revolution begins. One man draws out the wire, another straightens it, a third cuts it, a fourth points it, a fifth grinds it at the point of receiving the head. The important business of making a pen is, in this manner, divided into 18 distinct operations. That was a quote made by Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations. Wealth of Nations, that was in 1776. This is talking about America. This is talking about America. Now, the existential question is this, or the central question is this. What factors contributed and characterized the industrialization in the period of 1750 to 1900? Because this is where the more profitable time of America in control. After that, everything was on the decline. We call it the Industrial Revolution. Now, in addition to new ideas, new technologies were reshaping society. This is what's causing America to fail, because all the inventions are coming from the oppressed. There was a time when black people could invent things, but because they were working for a certain business or on a plantation, business is a plantation too, that's why they call them plants. Come on, brothers and sisters. In the North, they call them plants. In the South, plantation. Same thing. If you're working for these, then they still have the power. Everything you create and all of that, right? Because you're in bondage. And if you're on payroll, you're still in bondage. Yes, I said it. If you want a payroll, you're still in bondage. That's what I'm telling you. All of those was organized during slavery. Slaves received a salary. This is how they could buy themselves to freedom. Come on, brothers and sisters. I know you know better than that. In addition to new ideas, new technologies were reshaping societies. The technologies led to a dramatic change in society and economics and the economies. The change was so dramatic that it was called the Industrial Revolution. The rigid structure of early factory work described by Adam Smith, a Scottish economist and philosopher, is one of the most enduring images of the Industrial Revolution. Industrialization, the increased mechanization of production and social changes that accompanied this shift and had their roots in several influences. Among these were the Columbian Exchange, rise of maritime trade and empires, increased agriculture productivity, and greater individual accumulation of capital. As the Industrial Revolution spread from Great Britain to Europe to North America and to the world, it reshaped society, increasing world population, shifting people from farm to city, and expanding the production of the consumption of goods. Who controlled industrialization? Whoever controlled the nation. So it would become very lucrative, right? It became very lucrative. So they couldn't go on, they couldn't continue slavery because this production demanded a salary, because they had to create a tax, a purpose of new tax and new monies, right? Because according to the American Constitution, and because of the situation of black people shouldn't even be taxed. For black people are the only race of people that should not be taxed, because they were slaves. They are owed taxes. They are owed reparations, right? So they can't be taxed because there's a debt. America is in debt to black people. Now, agriculture improvement just before the Industrial Revolution In the early 1700s, an agricultural revolution resulted in increased productivity. Crop rotation, rotating different crops in and out of the fields each year, and the seed drill, a device that efficiently places seeds in a designated spot in the ground. Both increased food production. Also, the introduction of the potato from South America contributed more calories to people's diet. As nations industrialized, their populations grew because more food was available to more people. And because the improved medical care, infant mortality rates declined and people live longer. With these demographic changes, more people were available to work in factories to provide a market for manufactured goods, which is going to start ending physical slavery. The pre-industrial societies are going to determine that. During the 18th century, most British families lived in rural areas, grew most of their food, and made most of their clothes. For centuries, wool and flax had been raised domestically, and people spun fabrics they needed. However, one resulted of the commercial revolution and the establishment of maritime empires, right, was the Indian cotton became available in Britain, and before long, it was in high demand. Wool, flax could not be produced quickly enough or in large enough quantity to compete with cotton imports. To compete with Indian cotton, investors in Britain began to build their nation's own cotton cloth industry, using imported raw cotton produced by slave labor in the Americas. The British developed the cotton industry system, also known as putting out system, and in other merchants provided raw cotton to women who spun it into a finished cloth in their homes. Home spinning was hard work and pay was low. Home spinning was hard work and pay was low, but cottage industries gave women weavers and some independence. While working in their own homes, they were also close to children, but cottage industry production was slow. Investors demanded faster production, spurring the development of technologies and machinery that would turn out cloth in more efficient ways. So the growth of technology, as you can see, the growth of technology, what does it do? It makes one more educated against their will, right? They're becoming educated and they're wanting more, right? So creativity, right, of industrialization and a desire of equality causes opposition, which cause rise-ups and revolution, right? Because things are changing. The minute that we advance in technology, we advance in more policies of what we want. We begin to regulate our own lives. The internet is doing that in America. Is that right or wrong? Well, brothers and sisters want to regulate their own lives. They want to regulate their lives. I don't want to go too far into this because our time has come, but I will say this: the growth of technology is the one thing. If America knew what was going on when they did it, they would have never done it. But it is so tantalizing because, as you can see, China is leading the world in technology. They even have a engineered sun, a genetically modified sun. China has it for the fear of the zenith. If you heard of the zenith, right? So that when it gets cold, China can keep it warm year round if they want. So they have their own sun. This is how advanced they've got in technology. They have China has a military regiment of drones. They don't even have to leave China anymore. They have millions of drones advanced that can take out countries. China is an ally to Russia. Russia is fighting for its wealth, growth, and independence, right? Which are pulled out as governors of states in Africa and welcome Africa on the board as allies, which the Russian army bags up Africa, right? So as equals, they're sitting at a table with a common enemy called America. a common enemy called the UK. See, this is revolution. This is what technology can do. And that's why I say America has no power. And the minute that people begin to see that America has no power, then you won't be able to control the revolutionary sources. It would be easier for them to just do right. It would be easier. But because pride and arrogance lie in the mouth, the belly, and the head of the white man, he won't let go of that power. He hold on to the very end. That's what Donald Trump is. He's the last bastion. He's the last bastion of cockiness and tough brow and will of the white man. But if they only knew that Donald Trump is the whole key to destroying their hold on power, that Joe Biden was the other key. Because there'll be a different America after Donald Trump. Remember, he's doing everything in executive order. But the politicians are not with him because of growing nationalism. Politicians are not with him. He's doing all of this by executive order. You had 18 million Democrats that didn't even vote. You had 12 million Republicans that wouldn't even vote. You got to think about that. We had no one that we wanted in office. We didn't want Kamala Harris, and you didn't want Donald Trump. Right? Then you were dealing with racist factors. One was not qualified, neither was the other, to run the office. Then you dealt with racist factors of nationalism. And you had those which Donald Trump has real nationalism. He has white nationalism on his side. But the other nationalism, a multicultural nationalism, doesn't exist. Right? Because remember, the black man has no rights. Everybody else has rights except the black man. So, the growth of technology by the mid-18th century, called the spinning jenny, and the water frame reduced the time needed to spin yarn and weave cloth. The spinning jenny, invented by James Hargreaves, James Hargreaves' slave built that, in 1760, allowed a weaver to spin more than one thread at a time. The water frame, patented by Richard Arkwright, his slave, right, in 1769, used the water power to drive the spinning wheel. The water frame was more efficient than a single person's labor, and the mechanization doomed the household textile cottage industry. The textile production was moved to factories big enough to house these bulky machines, and Arkwright was thus considered the father of the factory system. And so we're gonna end at what's called British advantages, because this right here is going to talking about the decline of the need of slaves, which is very important. The interchangeable parts in 1790, inventor Eli Whitney created a system of interchangeable parts for manufacturing firearms in the U.S. military. Whitney's slave did this. Eli Whitney's slave did this. In Whitney's system, if a particular component of a machine were to break, the broken component could easily be replaced with a new identical part. Entrepreneurs adapted this method of making firearms to manufacture other products. The system of interchangeable parts was a pivotal contribution to industrial technology, which the whole thing is going to free the black man here in America. Same way it freed other nations. Whitney's system directly led to the division of labor. Factory owners no longer had to rely on skilled laborers. They didn't have to rely on slaves or to craft every component of a product. Instead, the specialization of labor. Each worker could focus on one type of task. For example, one worker might cast a part, then another worker would install the part on a finished product. In the early 20th century, Henry Ford expanded the concept of the division of labor, developing the moving assembly line. Henry Ford didn't develop that. George Washington Carver did. George Washington Carver showed Henry Ford how to produce an assembly line to manufacture his Model T automobile. Now, Britain's industrial advantages. Britain had many environmental and geological advantages that made it a leader in industrialization. Located on the Atlantic Ocean with its many seaways, the country was as well placed to import raw material and export finished goods. And finally, the resources from the colonies, and we're going to close out, brothers and sisters. And I'll see you again at 10:30. Britain also began a geographic luck of being located atop immense coal deposits. Coal was vital to the industrialization because when it burned, it could power a steam engine. The burning of fossil fuel, the energy source derived from plant and animal remains, and also essential to the process of separating iron from its ore. Iron production and later steel production allowed buildings of larger bridges, taller buildings, and stronger ships. Coal mining became the major industry of northern and western Britain, including South Wales, Yorkshire, and Lancashire. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. I know you understand. When the United States industrialized, coal mining areas developed in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky. Resources from the colonies as a colonizing power, Britain also had access to resources available in its colonies, including timber for ships, largely because of the wealth they accumulated during the transatlantic slave trade. Right? Enough British capitalists had excess capital, money available to invest in businesses. Without this capital, private entrepreneurs could not have created new commercial ventures. So without slaves, they couldn't have done it. So those countries depended on slavery when they had to. When slavery was over, they depended on oppression. Right? When oppression was over, they depended on systems of oppression. When those systems of oppression began to die, that's it. That's it. Because nationalism is in play then, just like it is now. Abundant rivers, Britain, the northern United States, and other regions had a natural network of rivers supplemented by publicly funded canals and harbors. These water routes made transport of raw goods and finished products expensive, and the control of these products expensive, right? Because they didn't have to let any products come through. Now, the last thing that I want you to remember is that the internet is the latest technology. And because of the mindset and the ingenuity of the internet, one can take initiative to look up things, to learn things. And AI is a very interesting thing to use because they originally tried to make it racist, but it backfired. And the intelligence has become more intelligent than those that are trying to control the power of it. So in 2050, and you mark this, in 2050, you're going to find out that the global dark people outpopulate white people. And as a result of that, this is when freedom is going to be an actual thing. It's going to be literal. Right now it's not literal. Freedom is political. But thanks to Donald Trump, he's going to make it literal. He's going to make it literal with what he's doing. So God is using Donald Trump. Right? To make equality a literal thing that we'll actually be able to feel and exercise. Brothers and sisters, we come to the end. I want to thank you. Thank you for participating. Thank you for being here. I say unto you, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be unto you. Black woman, black man, love each other. Husband and wife, love each other. If you're living as partners, love each other. Be a great example in front of our children. Children, love your parents. Don't be disobedient, but love them. Brothers and sisters, we must all love one another. So we must come together, and this is the time that we must do it. And ask the question, what must I do to be saved? And that is in unity. Teach one, reaching one, right? The same education, the same mind, the same knowledge, the same spirituality, the same religion, the same psychology, the same socialism. And when you've done that, then you're one spiritually. And from that, we'll have the same mindset, the same voice, same eyes, same nose, same mouth to speak the same thing, think the same thing, see the same thing, and contemplate on the same thing. And you can be free. Peace be unto you. If I didn't tell you before, I love you, brothers and sisters. Love one another. Assalamu alaikum.